Okay, thank you everybody for being here. I'm Elaine Brower, and I live here.
Until I get a bigger house.
That's right, until I get to a bigger house. Thanks for coming today to this fundraiser for Jonathan, who is going to mount a campaign to run against Kirsten Gillibrand for senator. And yeah, that's right. I first met Jonathan, I don't know, 2005 maybe, I guess. And of course it was at an anti-war rally, which is nearest and dearest to my heart. Jonathan was the first one out there talking against the war in Iraq at that point, and came to all of our events. I'm part of Peace Action, part of Movement for a Democratic Society, and World Can't Wait, and Military Families Speak Out, and Jonathan was always there, very, very vociferously opposing the war, and that's pretty much where I really understood what Jonathan was about. And then I learned that he was really working very hard for people like me and you, working class families, people that need health care, need just housing and jobs and living a normal middle class existence, and working class families. And he's out there championing the cause for people like us. So that's important to me, because what I've seen around since, well, I don't know, the last 10 years at least, if not more, the system is really beating us down. And the candidates that they're putting forward are part of that system. It's the same grind, the same people. They're not people for us. And yet they are still endorsed by the Democratic Party, or by the Republican Party, or even by the Independent Party, or wherever they're coming from. You see the same candidates out there, and I'm tired of that. I want new faces, I want new people. In fact, I think there should be shorter term limits, and we need to have dialogue. And one of the problems we had, in fact, I just want to mention this one instance when Jonathan called me up, and a friend of mine, Missy, who is a Gold Star family person, she lost her nephew in the war, and Mimi Evans, who's from Brooklyn, she's in Military Families Speak Out, and we did a press conference on City Hall steps because Hillary Clinton would not debate Jonathan when he was running for candidacy against her in 2006, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and we met at Starbucks and we sort of strategized about what we were going to talk about, and it started pouring, and it was lightning and thundering. I don't know if you remember that, but me and Mimi and Missy were soaked, but we went out on the City Hall steps and we got, a fair amount of press there, and we told the press exactly what we thought, that we need to have a dialogue. They need to hear other people besides Hillary Clinton or Gillibrand or Cuomo or any of them. We want new blood, new fresh faces, people that are going to work for us as working class people who are really taking care of this country. All our tax dollars go in to the city, to the state, to the federal government. We're providing, millions and millions of dollars. We should have a voice. So with that, I'd like to present Jonathan.
Well, I almost don't have to say much more, because it was a wonderful description of both what we both share, both in terms of the work we've done together, and I think where we want to lead our country. So thank you. I really obviously enjoyed your friendship and your comradeship over all these years, and all the work that Elaine has done for the cause of peace and justice has been really incredible. And you've sort of always been among the people that I look to for the model of a great citizen. Someone who's really active. It doesn't get the reward for it, but does it because it's the right thing to do. And that's so I thought what I would do is just talk very briefly about the campaign, why I'm running, and what I think the issues are, and then really listen to your questions, answer whatever questions you might have, about it. So the first thing, a little bit about me. I live in Washington Heights. Am I pointing north? I don't know. No. I just my arm.
I think that's
I just did it instinctively because it was the easiest way of sticking my arm out. I've lived in New York for 2/3 of my life, and I've lived in New York City since 1985, and in Washington Heights in the same apartment for the last 22 years, actually. Wonderful neighborhood for those of you who know it. And most of my life, my entire adult life really has been about movement politics, and particularly, as Elaine mentioned, though I have been a very, very active participant in the anti-war movement, unfortunately, not just this war, but other wars in the past. 91, I opposed the first Gulf War, but most of my work has been in the labor movement for the last 20 years. For 13 years, I was president of the Writers Union, which was a union for freelance writers, national union, and very proud that while I was as president, we grew dramatically, not just because of my work, but because of the work that many, many activists like Elaine, but writers in the Writers Union contributed to our growth. And when I was president, when I came in, there were 2,300 members. When I left, there were 7,000. And we had done, I think, a lot in terms of empowering freelance writers. And freelance writers, although people think that, oh, being a writer, I know you would like to be a writer, and I encourage you to be that it's this, nice life where you sit back and, you have a cup of coffee in the morning, you write a little bit, then you have a little nap.
That's my fantasy, don't puncture.
I have to tell you, you stay in your pajamas, maybe you change in the afternoon, you take a little nap, you write a little more. Actually, it's a very, very trying life to actually make a middle-class living from that. And in fact, probably only 10% of writers on a regular basis make a middle-class living. And freelance writers are really, to me, indicative of what's happening to workers everywhere. They're independent people. They have no health care. They can't look forward much to a pension, and just struggling to make ends meet, dealing with very large corporations is a day-to-day challenge. And what our union did was not just help people get money, but just give people a sense of dignity and respect and a social connection, which is, when you're particularly an independent worker, having connection with people like you is just incredibly important to keep your spirit up and keep your energy up, to keep your hope up, keep your dreams up. So besides the Writers Union, I left in 2003 because I do believe, not necessarily term limits, I think everybody should have their own imposed notion that they should do other things in life. And I always thought that I wanted to leave. I'd been there 13 years. I wanted to leave either before I was senile, before they carried me out or threw me out. And I accomplished those two things, I think. And left it, I hope, in good hands. And I was very, very proud of what we did. But in general, not just in the union, in my union, my passion, my commitment has been on a day-to-day basis to build a labor movement that isn't just the structure of the union, but a movement that protects workers and stands up for people, makes sure that we get the benefits of the hard work that we put into this country. And as I mentioned sort of in a side conversation we had, I don't think that's happened in the last 30 years. And the book that I just published, The Audacity of Greed, a very subtle title, I think captures that. And in a lot of ways, that's why I'm running. I'm gonna talk about my opponent, but almost towards the end, because it isn't really just about who I'm running against. It's really that I believe this race is about drawing the line. That, and you articulated this very well, for 30 years, people, regular people, in every borough, downstate, upstate, not just in this state, but across the country, have not gotten the benefits of their hard work. We've essentially, to not put too fine a point on it, we've been robbed. And productivity, not to get too statistical, productivity has been going like this, and wages have been flat. And so the whole notion of the American dream was that if you worked hard, you kept your nose clean, you came to work, whatever, 9 to 5, you did your job, you would get the benefit of that in terms of a paycheck, a decent pension, and health care. And you wouldn't have to worry about whether you could put food on the table, whether you could send your kids to school, have a decent education, and certainly you didn't worry about the idea of bankruptcy. The thought that you could be thrown out of your home and said, hey, think about that. 48 million Americans without health care in this country, and tens of millions of more who have to pay outrageous prices for health care coverage and get inadequate health care. To me, that's entirely immoral, and that has got to stop.